Welcome to Szabo Cast. Here we discuss all things from a working class, trans, anarchist, analytical perspective. Due to the nature of this show, listener discretion is advised. My name is Skylar, my pronouns are she, they, they, and I'm your host. Thank you for joining us today.
Okay, y'all, this is going to be definitely a heavier one. I'm just going to jump right into it. So, I did not watch the presidential debate because I knew that it was going to be shit. Like, I was not prepared to just watch Biden completely crawl his way through that debate, because he absolutely did, and I knew it was going to happen that exact way for like a mile away, and I was just not down to, jump on that whole, he's too senile to do anything argument. I don't think him being senile makes him, specifically more or less legitimate. I think just his political position, that he is a Democrat who is against any and all left-wing organizing, even to the point of union-busting railroad workers, to the point of not doing anything that the voters asked him to do, including but not limited to defunding the police, no trans rights or protection for trans people whatsoever, no passing of the Equality Act, the repeal of Roe versus Wade happening under his watch, affirmative action being completely destroyed under his watch. And when he has the executive power to be able to demonstrate something that could benefit not only his own actions, but also the rest of us, he does not do that at all. In fact, he does that so detrimentally that he's endorsing a genocide unconditionally. And this is where I just become so fucking fed up with repeating myself for like the millionth fucking time that it's just like, when are people going to learn that Joe Biden is not only incompetent as a president, but he was literally designed with the sole purpose of being a vehicle for the right-wing general political spectrum, being, the conservative parties. He is, for all intents and purposes, a blue MAGA. That's all he is. He's just MAGA in blue clothing. Not to mention, since he was a young boy, he's been a Catholic Zionist. So he's definitely going to be riding that Israel train all the way home, I suppose. Well, I don't know about going home after he loses this election, if he loses this election, which it's so likely that people are demanding that he step down. Even his own administration is considering having him step down from the race. But assuming that he doesn't step down and he drags this entire campaign to the mud all the way to November, we have a bigger threat to consider, and that is Donald Trump. You see, the Democratic Party likes to mooch off of grassroots movements at a surface level and not get involved with the nitty-gritty stuff. So they like to go after groups like the Democratic Socialists of America or the Communist Party of USA or Pride Month, all that kind of stuff. And they eventually turn their backs and do none of the things that we give them money for. Because I want to tell you that there's no way for me to download any of these because these have been YouTube ads specifically. But lately I've been seeing ads from Biden, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama. All these people have been begging me for money through YouTube ads. And I mean, the way it comes across, like I said, I don't have a downloaded sample because I can't download these, and these happen so spontaneously. But they just kind of go please, we need you to just give us $5, just fucking $5, so we can just take out Donald Trump and restore democracy once more. No, buddy, we don't have a democracy. You see, the thing about Donald Trump is that he, at one point, had the same kinds of executive powers that Joe Biden has now. In fact, what's really interesting is that with the Supreme Court ruling that we have, it was just recently ruled that the president can not only have more executive powers, but also the ability to make assassinations. And that means assassinate political opponents. This is now something that a president can do. That is hardcore authoritarian right there. That is like some Augusto Pinochet shit right there. You should be scared, because me making an episode like this that you're listening to right now could probably get me assassinated if I am high enough on Donald Trump's radar. Now, let's take this into account. Donald Trump at one point was the US president, and he has the same kinds of executive powers that Biden used to have. I want to assume, for the sake of argument, that perhaps Biden has this kind of executive powers right now. He could, in theory, play dirty and assassinate Donald Trump, because Donald Trump would be his, political opponent. And now that this is legal for the president to do, he could, in theory, go ahead and do that. But, no. Instead, he had a response that, I think in his head it sounded really good, but I don't think it sounded good when it came out of its mouth, and I want to go over it for a little bit. Here, take a listen.
The presidency is the most powerful office in the world. It's an office that not only tests your judgment, perhaps even more importantly, it's an office that can test your character. Because you not only face moments when you need the courage to exercise the full power of the presidency, you also face moments where you need the wisdom to respect the limits of the power of the office of the presidency.
So Biden is explaining something called legitimacy. This is something that we talk about in anarchist circles and anarchist lines of thinking all the time, because we're questioning hierarchy as to whether or not it can prove its legitimacy throughout any form of domination in history. So the United States is a hegemon, and it is kind of showing its rear ugly face. It's unable to do a checks and balances system. The Supreme Court has demonstrated that it can grant executive powers to people whom we cannot prove is legitimate, so he has to put on this performance and prove his legitimacy, especially in light of the fact that, he sucked really bad at a debate recently. The thing about Biden and Trump is that Biden is kind of proving himself to be somebody who doesn't know what he is doing at the helm of this US global hegemon, while Donald Trump is a complete fucking evil psychopath, a white nationalist, and a felon, if we're going to be accurate with his description. He has all of fucking goddamn Project 2025 under his belt, and this is something that I, quite frankly, do not want to see executed. At the same time, however, we're seeing the beginning of that with this recent Supreme Court ruling. So then that means, in theory, if I am correct, Biden would have this executive power, this amount of responsibility at the helm of the entire US hegemon, and he's about to lose his place because of this debate. That means Donald Trump would be his political opponent.
This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law, not even the President of the United States. With today's Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity, that fundamentally changed. For all practical purposes, today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do. This is a fundamentally new principle, and it's a dangerous precedent, because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law, even including the Supreme Court of the United States. The only limits will be self-imposed by the president alone. This decision today has continued the court's attack in recent years on a wide range of long-established legal principles in our nation, from gutting voting rights and civil rights, to taking away a woman's right to choose, to today's decision that undermines the rule of law of this nation.
So we voted you in, and you have this executive power, again, in theory, so you could execute it and use it to your political advantage. See, the problem is that he's not going to do this, y'all. He's not going to. The thing is that he has to portray this higher and mighty form of vibes-based politics like he's speaking from a higher ground point of view, like he's got the moral high ground. So this is what I mean by he's trying to establish some form of legitimacy by doing a PR move of not exercising that power to take out his political opponent, i.e. Donald Trump. Because think about it, like, he's in this position now. He has the executive powers. And now keep in mind as well, I'm not a Biden supporter. But the fact is that I clearly already do not want Donald Trump either. I didn't want Donald Trump when he won in 2016, and I don't want him now. And a lot of people are saying that we need Biden in order to stop Donald Trump, because he's the only thing in the way of Donald Trump having full fucking dictatorial power when he unfortunately, hopefully, doesn't win. But, this is the one time I'm giving Biden, a bone to pick, that, hey, this is something you can actually do to actually win, and you're not going to do it.
Nearly 4 years ago, my predecessor sent a violent mob to the U.S. Capitol to stop the peaceful transfer of power. We all saw it with our own eyes. We sat there and watched it happen that day. Attack on the police, the ransacking of the Capitol, a mob literally hunting down the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, gallows erected to hang the Vice President, Mike Pence. I think it's fair to say it was one of the darkest days in the history of America. Now the man who sent that mob to the U.S. Capitol is facing potential criminal conviction for what happened that day. And the American people deserve to have an answer in the courts before the upcoming election. The public has a right to know the answer about what happened on January 6th before they are asked to vote again this year. Now, because of today's decision, that is highly, highly unlikely. It's a terrible disservice to the people of this nation.
Yeah, and you know what? You could stop all of that right now with a snap of a finger. Like, why don't you understand, Biden, that you could literally just end it right now, right fucking now? Like, we're giving you 4 fucking years, you asshole. We're giving you 4 motherfucking goddamn years to figure some shit out, and you couldn't. You genuinely fucking couldn't. To figure out a way to get the January 6th committee to bust their ass, to criminally convict Kyle Rittenhouse when you were not able to, get a criminal conviction on that motherfucker. Also, not to mention that his mom and his sister are being evicted from the apartment. On the one hand, I feel bad because Kyle isn't really helping them, but on the other hand, they, raised him to be like this. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just like, obviously, I hope that they're safe, but it's just like, they groomed such a little child into licking that boot so hard that he did a mass shooting in Kenosha. And yet, yeah, Biden couldn't even criminally convict that either. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, yeah, it's good that Derek Chauvin was criminally convicted. It's good that, like, Alec Jones was criminally convicted. But, like, you couldn't even, like, stop Donald Trump even though he was criminally convicted. Like, the fact that he is a felon and he's still, like, showing more legitimacy, like, not legitimacy in my opinion, but more just like he's asserting legitimacy. He's demonstrating that he can at least be cognizant during a conversation about politics in your debate. Donald Trump is showing that he can at least throw a punch. He can show that he can at least give some kind of answer. That he has some kind of political power over Joe Biden, especially with the lobby circumstances. Donald Trump definitely did rig this system from within, especially with his cult of personality, with all of those particular seat-holding people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who definitely influenced the Congress. It's just like one of those things where it's like, I don't think I have faith in the upcoming future. and Biden has given me absolutely zero reason to believe that there's going to be any hope in the future for any reason at all.
So now the American people have to do what the courts should have been willing to do, but will not. The American people have to render a judgment about Donald Trump's behavior. The American people must decide whether Donald Trump's assault on our democracy on January 6th makes him unfit for public office in the highest office in the land. The American people must decide if Trump's embrace of violence to preserve his power is acceptable. Perhaps most importantly, the American people must decide if they want to entrust the president once again, the presidency, to Donald Trump, now knowing he'll be even more emboldened to do whatever he pleases whenever he wants to do it.
I'm going to assume that he's probably not going to be using this newly exercised power to take out his political opponent right now, probably because that it's got to be for the next term, not for this term. Well, if Joe Biden wins, does that mean we're going to see a public execution of Donald Trump endorsed by the Biden administration? Or does this mean that Biden is just pretty much not that enthusiastic about winning this upcoming election? Because, I don't know, y'all, it could be, like, very much up there. Like, I genuinely do not think that Biden even cares about winning the presidency. I don't even know if he even knows it's an election this year.
At the outset of our nation, it was the character of George Washington, our first president, to define the presidency. He believed power was limited, not absolute. And that power always resides with the people. Always. Now, over 200 years later, with today's Supreme Court decision, once again, it'll depend on the character of the men and women who hold that presidency that are going to define the limits of the power of the presidency, because the law will no longer do it.
He knows damn well that politicians these days, especially members of the Supreme Court, notably Clarence Thomas, receive gifts from lobbyists, and they rule within the lobbyist interest. There is no power of the people. This is how American democracy, quote-unquote, not really a democracy, this is how it works. This isn't a fucking joke, Biden. Be straight with us. Can you exercise these newly granted powers given to you by the Supreme Court? Yes or no?
I know I will respect the limits of the presidential powers I have for 3.5 years. But any president, including Donald Trump, will now be free to ignore the law. I concur with Justice Sotomayor's dissent today. Here's what she said. She said, in every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. End of quote. So should the American people dissent. I dissent. May God bless you all, and may God help preserve our democracy. Thank you.
He's just admitted it. He doesn't give a flying fuck. And it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, obviously in a just democracy, there would be no political assassinations, but he now has immunity from the law. You not understand? Like, he could go and literally exercise these forms of power, and he can't do it. He won't. He refuses. He's too much of a moral high ground motherfucker to fucking do it. Biden is a coward. He is a fucking coward. In every sense of the word. He will summon police to universities to spray down and arrest students and remove their encampments for trying to ask their universities to divest from Israel. But he just admitted that the Supreme Court gave him executive powers to kill off actual political opponents. And he won't do it, but he acknowledges that Donald Trump can, will, definitely wants to. And it's just like, he's not going to do anything about it. He's in that position of power. Sure, he looks really bad, but you know what would make him look good? At least at least a little better than where he's at right now? Is exercising those forms of political power against Donald Trump. He just said he won't do it. He's given up. He's given up. He's chosen for us. Like our fucking destiny. You don't understand? I mean, Wow.
May God protect our troops.
What you dropped on the race, Mr. President?
Democrats, why are you the best Democrat to beat Trump?
What makes you so confident you should be the president?
Dude, he's so cooked. He's so fucking cooked. I'm sorry to leave this out on bad news here, but like, he it's one of those things where it's just like, he chose for us that we were going to go down in history as the people. He pretty much, in a way, just told us that he fucked up the people. He failed the people. He failed his voters. He failed his voters. You don't understand? He failed his fucking voters. I only voted for him because Fosh and all of those other fucking douchebags were guilt-tripping me. And honestly, I mean, yeah, I didn't want Trump either. Obviously. Like, that was a no-brainer. But it's one of those things where it's like, Biden, he had one job. He had one fucking job. He had one fucking job, and that was to pretend that we have some kind of long-standing democracy. But he failed to do that. He failed to demonstrate that. He is so fucked. Okay? Like, it's not even like his, you know, mental ability or, you know, his old age going senile and all that stuff. It's not even just that. It is the very fact alone that he is in this position and yet he does not exercise the same kinds of powers that Donald Trump exercised, you know, in his term that he already served. And so now we're seeing an increase of presidential powers, and it's just like he's not going to exercise those presidential powers. And even if they are for the next upcoming term, if, say, hypothetically Joe Biden wins, he's not going to either. He's going to take the moral high ground here. And it's just like, it's not from a high ground. Like, let's be real here. Like, you lost. You're choosing to have the people suffer at your hands. You already, like, endorsed the genocide into oblivion already. You know, you pretty much told all of your voters, fuck you. You know what I mean? This is so maddening. This is so not okay. It's not okay. It is unacceptable. This is not fucking okay. This is not how we as a society should be run. Where we are at the beck and call of these presidential fucking dipshits. This is not how our society should be run. At the hands of these merciless fucking reptiles. And I'm not promoting the idea that these fucking old bags are reptiles. I'm just saying that they're so fucking far removed from any human decency. And yet they are so old. They are so old with a lot of money, with a lot of wealth and power. They don't deserve to be our leaders. Not even a little bit. Neither Donald Trump nor Joe Biden ever display any form of legitimacy. The only reason why I said Donald Trump kinda did is because he's at least doing something. Which is not a good thing. None of these are good things. I don't know if you understood, but it's like one of those things where it's clear that the Biden administration is so very vividly aware of the threat to democracy Donald Trump is, but they're doing jack shit to really, really strategize a way to defend democracy. I just can't believe that this is something that they really fucked up. They really just went out of their own way, supporting every Republican constituent that they could, you know, buddy up with. Need I mention censuring Rashida Tlaib? You understand that, like, just the kinds of volumes that speaks to your voters when you have somebody in Congress who has family being blown up with our taxpayer dollars, and she's pleading to you to fucking stop? You understand just, like, how much you have not listened to your voters, and now how much that is now going to bite you in the ass? It's going to bite us all in the ass because you didn't listen to us. This is why I have stopped supporting the Democratic Party, especially, like, campaigning for them and all that. I stopped doing that at the peak of the Occupy Wall Street protest because I've learned over time that, yeah, Democrats, they're just puppets for corporations. That's what they do. Biden's not an exception to that. That's not what Biden does. Biden is a piece of shit. Like a major piece of shit. He's a corporate hack, just like all of the other neoliberal Democrats. Just like all of the neoconservative fucking Republicans and shit. There's really just no way to say it other than fuck Joe Biden. He really fucking let us all down. And we all saw this coming from a mile away. And I really feel like the Democratic National Convention should have just used Bernie when he was taking the lead in the 2020 election. I really feel like that the Democratic National Convention really shot themselves in the foot there. They really fucked up. They really, really, really fucked up. And they know it. I'm just so not fucking cool with the fact that now our elected officials don't even want to pretend that our voice matters. Like, sure, Biden saying that we the people should have equal voice and equal powers under the law, same as the president, but like, he's literally losing this election, dude. And him trying to performatively take the higher ground and say, I'm not going to kill Donald Trump, like, you asshole. You major asshole. Especially all the police brutality we've seen in the protests in the last year or so. You don't understand just how much we fucking hate you and how much you are driving your own campaign to the ground. Just fuck you. Fuck you, cracker ass bitch. Fuck you. Alright, I thought this was going to be short. Be sure to follow me on Spotify. Be sure to follow me on YouTube. Be sure to follow me on Patreon. Be sure to follow me on Instagram. I am all over the place. You can find me with Turbo Queer. You can find my music all over YouTube. Szabo Cat Records. You can find my, memes page, Szabo TV. And, also on Szabo TV, I'm starting to release live footage, and I'm going to be doing some interviews from artists real soon on there, so check that out as well. I still definitely plan to do an anti-Zionist Jew interview episode with a bunch of guest speakers. I'm still working on the details on that, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you for listening to part 2 of I Hate Cowards today. Peace out.